Okay, note to self. In the inevitable time when I become a crazy, huge internet celebrity, I am going to make it a vital point to keep that which I love close to my heart and never make said person feel in any shape, way, or form like they are neglected because I do not want them to ever get swallowed up by the madness that would ensue from flippant, egocentric celebrity. Yeah, that's what the movie was about, right? Mother! Yeah, that was not the film adaptation of the song that I was hoping for. If you've ever seen a real film by Aronofsky, I'm talking Pi, I'm talking Requiem for a Dream, I'm talking Black Swan. This is no exception. This is probably one of the most Aronofskyist Aronofsky films I've seen. The film has an incredible cast. I mean, and I'm not just talking about Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem. We've got Ed Harris, Michelle Pfeiffer, both Gleason brothers, and a surprise cameo by a comedy starlet who I am very staggered was in this film for the brief span she's in. But what she's in for, I've never thought I'd ever be scared by her, but she's pretty damn striking in what few scenes she's in. But the wacky thing is, the film is being advertised to be a horror film, and you know what? It is unsettling. It is visceral. I think the best word to describe not just this film, but every Aronofsky film is visceral. And yeah, this one is definitely no exception. The thing I'm finding immensely funny about the reception this film is getting is that some of the critics actually saying like, oh, it lacks audience appeal. You're film critics! You should know! Aronofsky, you know that people don't grab a six-pack and a pizza and go, you know what, I'm going to watch Pi. In order for me to properly analyze this, I'm going to have to get into... It's being advertised as a horror film, as I said before, but it is frankly more of a psychodrama. A thriller implies that you're going to get adrenaline from this. This one, you are going to feel assaulted. Your senses are going to be absolutely ravaged. Javier Bardem is a poet, and when we meet him, he is suffering from severe writer's block, so I can get on board with that. It's very difficult. Meanwhile, you have Jennifer Lawrence, she's actually a very doting, very caring wife. She actually is trying her best to try and give him his space so he can write in order to just get his mojo back. Meanwhile, she is trying to restore a house, this very beautiful, idyllic house, right in the middle of the countryside. Jennifer Lawrence is rebuilding this house, and from what we know is that Javier Bardem has lived in this house for a long time, and it suffered a severe fire, and in it he lost someone he absolutely cared about, and he only has one remnant left of her, and he cherishes that implicitly. You don't question it too much, you just know that he has a very sad past, and it was something that he was able to carry with him. But unfortunately, now that he has this new existence with this doting wife, beautiful house that's being gradually rebuilt, unfortunately you sense that it's getting stagnant for him. Pretty much at the minute Ed Harris shows up on the scene, that's when this thing just becomes this violent, crazy boulder. In a fashion, it's kind of like a metaphor. It's like the boulder from the beginning of Sexy Beast, where you see everything's nice, everything's relaxing, then all of a sudden this boulder comes in and just throws the entire world in upheaval. It's kind of that thing where you see these people come into this house and they disrupt everything to an almost obnoxious extreme. Jennifer Lawrence is working, and you see her working rapidly to try and get this house in proper shape, but then these people come in. At first, it's a simple thing of that her saying, don't smoke in the house, and what does he do? She sees an ashtray loaded with cigarettes. And she thinks, okay, this guy's outstayed his welcome, he has to go. But then all of a sudden in comes his wife, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And they end up overstaying their welcome, and then right when they're about to get out, in comes their sons, played by the Gleason brothers. It was kind of funny seeing General Hux have a tiff with his brother. This just starts this downward spiral. And what's interesting is that there's a kind of Act 1 finale type thing where you see that things could potentially get better. You see like some kind of glimmer of hope that things could improve. But then all of a sudden things get even worse. I could get deeper into the metaphor. I personally believe that this whole thing is a metaphor for what happens when someone gets caught up in their own celebrity and how they wind up leaving the things that they cherish or that they love behind, or that they may not grasp the reason why they love them, to the point where this innocent person ends up getting swallowed up by it and ultimately destroyed. That was my way of taking it, where, because you see Javier Bardem's character, he just becomes drunk on his celebrity, because there is a point happens in the middle of the film where he becomes inspired, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, his celebrity goes through the roof. He's to like messianic proportions. It gets mental. All leads to this third act. I don't want to say climax. I just want to say that it just becomes this severe exaggeration. This is like, it's honestly, it'd be kind of like what would happen if TMZ and Trump had a merger. If you're savvy to it, you can see where this metaphor is going. I'd say the major flaw with this film is that, yes, the symbolism is great. I was able to pick up on it immediately. I would say definitely compared to Pi, I would say this is definitely a little bit easier to grasp. But I'd say certain times the symbolism was a bit ham-fisted, a bit much. They use a metaphor for the house as kind of like a metaphor for Jennifer Lawrence's existence, where the house kind of represents the way she feels about her life, where the house has this very healthy beating heart, but then gradually, as it goes on, the heart just burns away and just is ash. Compared to the much more raw, but yet a bit more aloof stuff we see in, say, Black Swan, this one I felt was a touch forced. But the thing that really carries you through all the way is that Jennifer Lawrence, and this film follows strictly Jennifer Lawrence. Javier Bardem is just the guy she communicates with mostly. But Jennifer Lawrence, she is the star of this baby, and she is absolutely riveting. This is probably one of the most... You could see she was probably exhausted by the end of shooting days on this puppy, because she is pouring everything into it, and it is intense. And actually it was kind of nice seeing Javier Bardem, for a change, play a character that was not sinister by any stretch of the imagination. Far from it. Actually, he's actually a very clueless character, and because he's so clueless, it makes sense to where he's left in the movie. All the sinister stuff actually comes from practically everyone around her. Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer onwards. That's where the sinister stuff comes in. But even then, they're not sinister in the sense that they're like malicious. They're just obnoxious. They have absolutely no respect for people's wishes. And when you think about it, when it comes to the mass populace, when you think about the way people, want to like claw onto celebrities, that's frankly the kind of people who do that. That's where the TMZ thought comes in. I mean, like, when you think about all those people who are so hell-bent to like grab at your favorite celebrities, like, oh my god, I must devour everything about them because my life is theirs. There's even a kind of a freaky bit where Javier Bardem's character says, my words are yours, and the entire crowd that forms just goes absolutely batshit crazy. You can imagine from that reaction, that's probably maybe how Aronofsky and maybe a lot of more introverted auteurs probably see the mass populace and the way they react to people's work. It's very scary. From their perspective, I can imagine being very scary. That's usually why when I go to conventions, I try my best not to be all single white female or play Misty for me. I make no promises. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I'm still going to say Black Swan's probably my favorite Aronofsky film. I mean, yes, like his other films, it was visceral, it had symbolism, and had stirring performances, but that was the one that I think I admired the most because of its grace. It had exceptional grace to go with the intensity. But this one, flat out, it's punishing. In a funny way, this is kind of like building a house, where you build it, and you're building it up, and it's a trial, and you're going through it, and then some immature bastards come in and just start ravaging everything. And it's like, and that's this movie. And the movie's called Mother for a reason. Ultimately, the thing that is the final nail in the coffin is when she has the baby and what becomes of the baby. Now, I already gave you the warning before, but again, the baby don't last long. And not in the died at birth type thing. Died a couple days after giving birth, the baby winds up getting ripped apart by the masses, literally gets ripped apart by the masses, and ultimately bits of him get devoured. And unfortunately, the only thing that was going into my head was, eat a baby! Oh, hi, baby! It's what's for dinner! Yeah, that was in my head the entire time. And admittedly, that kind of killed the mood a bit. And I'm sorry, it may be because Hannibal desensitized me, but I kind of find cannibalism a bit funny now. God help me. And Monty Python, that was your fault too. To wrap up, Mother is another solid release from Darren Aronofsky. Much like all of his other films, I don't feel the need to see it again because I feel like I got everything I wanted to out of it. But at the same time, though, I feel this irrepressible urge to see it again because I feel like I may react to it differently. So who knows? Maybe very soon I might actually do a revisit and not just alone. So keep it here on Narcotic Casserole. In the end, for my own personal rating, I'm going to give Mother a... Do you agree? Do you disagree? Oh, and you are definitely going to do one or the other. Just leave it in the comments below. And for more addictive content on Narcotic Casserole, simply like, share, subscribe, click, and thou shalt be served. Just not baby. I want my baby back, ribs, chili, baby back ribs.